Now in today's video, we are going to look at my flying impressions of the Ruko F11Pro2 drone. Now I'm going to start this entire video by saying I like this drone quite a bit. And I also need to premise this by saying I am certainly not an expert. I'm an enthusiast at best. I've flown a couple of different types of drones, but I really don't have a lot of stick time. So for me, this is really a great learning opportunity. And that's a perfect place to kick off this review, where this particular drone, in my opinion, is an awesome entry-level drone. It's really well featured. For the most part, gives you what you need to get started. It doesn't have a ton of sensors, but I'm going to say I think that's a good thing. It's one of those kind of, you gotta earn the nicer stuff types of scenarios. You kind of gotta get a little bit of stick time and really trust yourself and learn how to fly without the sensors, so that when you have all the sensors, you already have all the skills. I don't know if that makes sense, but in my opinion, the fact that this is a little more stripped down than some of the more premium models, I think that's a good thing. You have a nice quality camera, fairly stable package, kind of compact, all things considered, easy to get around. I found my flying experience to be very enjoyable, and all in all, I could see this really being something that's great not only just for the beginner, but somebody who's a little more intermediate and maybe looking for a drone that's less money. Maybe they want to have an extra unit for a friend. Maybe they want to shoot some alternate angles at different given times. Maybe they don't need the sensor package all the time. Maybe they want to put their drone in a risky situation and they just don't want to afford the, potential difficulties of crashing or, losing their drone in a sketchy situation, and they want something that's a little more affordable. This, to me, can do it, and I really have enjoyed this. So, in today's video, the flying footage, my overall general impressions while I was flying. You're going to see all my footage. I'll talk you through it. And ultimately, as I mentioned, I think this is a great drone. So I hope you enjoy the video. If you like what you see here, look in the description box below where I have all of the relevant links where you can find your own Ruko products. Not just this drone, but other Ruko products as well. I would like to say thank you very much to the people at Ruko who did provide this for review. And with that, I hope you enjoy my flying footage. And so as we get into the field use with the Ruko F11Pro2, setup very easy, extremely simple in terms of getting everything connected, turning on the drone itself, turning on the remote. For the most part, it does tend to connect quickly, assuming that the GPS kicks in. If not, there are a number of additional modes that you can use to allow you to bypass the GPS mode, but generally speaking, very easy to connect. Now, in my field use, I did a bunch of testing. Keep in mind the fact that I am absolutely not a drone expert. In fact, I am barely a novice at best. I have flown in the past, but not a ton. And the drones that I used in the past had a lot of sensors, and this particular unit is pretty much straight up just fly as you go, guide by yourself, and fly by your eyes. You're going to need to do the vast majority of the detail work by yourself. Now, there are some advanced settings that you can use, but in my testing, I did find that for the most part, I did pretty much leverage my own skill set and my own ability. Now, you'll see as we go through this a number of different operations. I did the best of my ability to fly low, fly high, fly smooth. I tried some orbital passes, things that I thought were essentially going to be a little bit difficult, but I did find that the Ruko F11Pro2 did perform well. In low pass testing, I was going as low as I could to make sure the rotors didn't create any sort of weird draft or current that would make the drone go out of control. I never found that there were too many problems. Flying low, no worries, as long as you were careful and you made sure there was nothing that you would crash into. I did find that during my testing, in certain light conditions, I would get a little bit of flicker and some lens flare from the rotors into the camera, but that's to be expected, and I feel like that would happen with most typical types of drones. I did do some real smooth movements to the best of my ability. Now, if I could complain, I found that the controls did start a little bit on the heavy side, and then eventually they start to smooth out. And so your initial movement with the sticks and with the camera controls might be a little choppy. That takes away from the cinematic effect. I think over time I will personally learn how to smooth that out, but it can be a little sensitive at first, and it's something you're absolutely going to have to play with. You'll see here I'm attempting a minimum speed rotation. I wish you could go slower and smoother. For me, it is something that I found just doesn't go quite smooth and slow enough for the cinematic needs. But again, there are some settings, and I feel like if I play with this enough, I'll get it dialed in. What I like is the ability to adjust the camera up and down in a smooth motion. That is something that I definitely want to practice with because that aids in your cinematic effect while filming. Here you can see doing the best that I can to maintain slow camera action. Now checking the camera quality and the pixel quality, not too bad. Not too bad on the actual photograph itself. I found reasonable sharpness, not a ton in the way of noise. You can see that the lens is not super high quality, but again, I would find this suitable and consider it to be a reasonable picture quality with reasonable contrast and reasonable saturation overall. But of course, that would depend on your actual lighting conditions.
In terms of the hover, it's not terrible. Definitely wandering a little bit. Doesn't like getting too close to the ground. A remote lost control. Not exactly. I just can't see it. It's in the back. GPS mode.
But as I continued to move forward, I found a couple of interesting ways to use the drone. I actually did really need to see what was going on top of my roof. I wanted to check my gutters, make sure they weren't full of leaves and debris, and you can see here, fairly clean for the most part. I might have a little bit of sand and some crumbs from the asphalt shingles, leaving a little bit of debris, but in pretty good shape overall. So not only can you use a drone like this for recreation and for flying and for your general enjoyment and cinematic purposes, but you can certainly leverage this for inspections if you're careful and if you're clever, if you have a need for it. And in my particular case here, you can see actually very useful. Doing the best I can to move slowly and pan slowly. With more practice, I'm sure I'll be able to smooth this out and get one continuous shot moving horizontally versus the kind of choppy nature that you see here. I mean, that's just me getting close to the roof, being a little bit careful, taking my time, and I am dancing around trees, which you can't see. Generally speaking, this did very well for me. Again, getting a higher view here, looking at the overall condition of the roof, making sure there's nothing popping up or sticking out of place or any shingles that are damaged. So overall, generally speaking, you do have the ability to leverage a drone in many, many ways, not just for recreation, but in my particular case, I'm actually using it for inspections. I found that this does a fairly nice job, the camera quality is more than suitable, and the controls are perfectly ample. So in my opinion, working very well. Hoping for the best here. Getting this recording. Firing up the rotors. Battery looks good, still at 52%. Playing with the camera angle here. Only thing worth watching is any branches above me. Trying to go up as smooth as I can. See how this goes. Looks to be fairly stable. That's good. That's pretty. Coming up on 100 feet. $150. $200. Still nice and smooth. $250. And we're gonna top this off coming up. Coming up right to 300 feet. Nice and smooth, very clean, beautiful picture. That's nice. So now just going to rotate the camera, gentle, soft up. You can see some flare, got a nice little lens flare there, up into the horizon. Gonna pitch it real slow as I can. Right now, coming back down. It's not as clean as I would like. There we go. I'd like a little more sensitivity if possible. But all things considered, that's pretty nice. And so, alright guys, there you have it, the Ruko F11Pro2. I like it. I think it's a great drone. I think it performed well. There were a few things that I didn't test just yet, a few things that I didn't get too in depth with, and that's more of some of the advanced features that this does have. I didn't leverage the waypoints. I really only did a couple of attempted orbits. I usually, for the most part, have been practicing trying the orbiting on my own and not really relying on sort of more of the settings. As I mentioned, I did test it a little bit. I used some of the follow me to give it a try. The follow me worked fairly well, but you have to be at a kind of reasonable height, and it's really only tracking to the controller, at least to the best of my knowledge. So generally speaking, pretty good. I think this works very well. I think it's fairly stable. The camera quality is ample. Now, did I struggle a little bit with some of those pan and tilt motions? I did. Do I think I can do better in the future? I do. I think with more time, with more stick time, with more practice, things will smooth out. So, again, to the people at Ruko, thank you so much for providing this for review. For the rest of you, look in the description box below where you can find all of the relevant links. And if you like this content, do me a favor. Take a look at my Outer Limitless 2 channel, which is more on the tactical and firearm side of things. At this point, that channel is growing quickly. I have a ton of videos up there. So if you like what you see here on Outer Limitless, do me a favor and check me out on Outer Limitless 2. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.